Hello again everybody. So in this video I wanted to give you guys a closer look at the custom made pannier rack system for my bike and kind of talk you through how it can actually be quite easy to create a similar system for pretty much any bike out there. So just to give you guys a bit of background, this motorcycle, the Suzuki VanVan, doesn't have a Givi system available for it. In fact, it doesn't currently have any kind of pannier rack system available for it, so anything that you do come across is completely custom made. I think the only exception is there is a company, Rough and Ready Accessories. They are currently producing or starting to produce a soft pannier rack system, which is it is like a solid rack, but it is just soft pannier still. But as I say, any hard pannier system just doesn't exist for this bike at this stage, and I doubt it ever will, just because popularity wise not many people who own this bike are particularly interested in panniers, and those that are, like myself, tend to go down the custom route anyway. So if you do have a motorcycle that you cannot get a pannier rack system for and you do want a pannier rack system, keep watching. I'll explain how this all works. So what we have here is a official Givi monolock bracket effectively. Now basically, it doesn't matter which bike this comes off of. I mean, obviously you're never going to find one for this particular bike, but this system actually comes off of a Honda CB125F. But as I say, it doesn't matter which bike you get it off, so you can go on eBay, you can find a second-hand rack or whatever. Doesn't actually matter what bike it comes off, as I say, because you're going to be hacking it apart anyway. So that's the first port of call, is to basically get, and it's just this bit here. I mean, the rest of this stuff doesn't matter. The bit you're interested in is this, and really it's just this triangle. So you've got the two pegs here, and then obviously the lock system at the top here. This is the bit you're interested in. The shape of this doesn't matter, as long as these are in the right place, you're all good to go. So then the next thing is to obviously cut off any bits that are bike specific or don't fit to your bike. So you might have bits coming off that get in the way or anything like that. So just cut it down, so you basically just have this part here. And then the next thing really, you'll see that on my system this isn't 100%, it's 98% there. There's just a couple of things that I need to do. You can see, like here, so when we first did this, the whole system was a bit too far forward for my liking, so I've just extended it back using a bit of metal here, which doesn't look particularly great, but it does the job perfectly. So later down the line I will have that properly cut and extended and welded again, so it looks as nice as when we first did it. But as I say, the system's not 100% at the minute, it's just 98% there, and the idea behind this is just to show you guys how you can do it. So as I say, you get your system, you get your basic connections on each side, and then if you can weld, that does make life easier. If not, then if you are lucky enough to have a family member like I do, my brother, you can get them to do it, or worst case scenario, if you don't know anybody, you can obviously take this rack and everything to a shop and get someone to weld it up for you. So yeah, basically the idea is you just want to find a connection on your bike. So for the bottom connectors on mine, I've connected to the top bolt of the passenger foot pegs here. So I've taken out the original bolt. I've got a longer bolt in there, and I've got a spacer there as well, just to bring it out a little bit. And then that's basically it. It's exactly the same on the other side. And then for the top, what I've done here is I've made it as simple as possible. I wanted to be able to take this off just with two bolts, so I undo these bolts, one on each side, and the whole system just lifts off. Obviously you can make it a bit more complex than that. You can get your connection point down here, and then you can find another connection point up here and do it that way as well. It's just on this particular bike, for my particular purposes, I wanted to keep it nice and simple, and the way I've got it here works really well. So with regards to the connections at the top, all I've done is we've just got a bar, which you can see here, welded across between the two, and then I've got in the middle here, this is like a rubber piping coating it as well, and then this is another temporary thing, so I'm using these pads at the minute just to protect the original rack that it sits on top of, because it does literally just sit on top of these bits on each side. But I will get something a bit more appropriate, like a thicker rubber pad or something, just to sit on there. Obviously, because I've not got it connected to anything up here, it just sits on it, there is a tiny bit of, just the tiniest bit of side-to-side movement, but not too much. But of course, you know, you could always get some straps or something, or cable ties, and tie that down. But as I say, for my purposes, and when you've actually got the side cases attached, it doesn't actually move all that much anyway. So the only other thing to note on my particular bike, if you're viewing this and have a Suzuki VanVan specifically, if you're looking to do a similar thing, you'll notice I've got a aftermarket exhaust system. This is a GPR Geyser. It's not actually the original system. Obviously the original system is slightly wider and does come out a bit more, but that isn't a problem. You can still do this, it's just you'll obviously have this bar just a tiny bit wider and that spacer just a tiny bit wider, and it will literally, I think, so the original exhaust comes out like just a few centimetres more, so this wouldn't be dramatically further along, it's just it would be ever so slightly wider, but the principle is still the same and you can still do it. It's as I say, it's not actually all that complicated, and as I say, if you do have to go to somewhere to have this welded, you know, it's not too much work. It's like two weld points here, and then obviously welding a bar down to wherever you want your connection point here. You know, any competent welder will be able to do that for you, and it shouldn't cost you too much money either. So let me put the side cases on and you can see what this actually looks like. I mean, the Suzuki VanVan is quite a funny bike anyway, because it's very narrow at the front and naturally quite wide at the back anyway, especially if you've got the original exhaust system. So obviously this does add width to it, but at the same time, I personally think it looks pretty good. Certainly very, very practical. As I say, I use this to go to work, I use it to, you know, tour around, whatever else. But obviously not all the time, so that's why I wanted to have that simple 2-bolt system where it's easy to take off, because, you know, I don't drive around with this whole system on the whole time, so I just made it quick and easy. So this is what it all looks like together. I mean, as I say, it does make the back of the bike quite a bit wider, but it's still within the width of the handlebars, so it's not going out any further than that, which is obviously good. And to be honest, I think it looks quite cool. I mean, I quite like the idea of a mini adventure bike. Like, you know, you've got all the big adventure bikes and stuff like that. The idea of just a little bike like this, but with the capability of carrying a few more things. And yes, should be noted that this is a 125. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but you know, adding this system has not made it any slower. If you carry a load of weight in it, then sure. But I mean, each of these side cases, Givi actually specify it as only being able to carry about 5 kilograms on each side anyway, so you're not going to be carrying too much more weight. But I would sort of say, you know, if you do have a 125 and you do this, then you probably don't want to be carrying a load of stuff and a passenger at the same time necessarily, or if you do, you won't be expecting to go very fast. But certainly if it's just you and the luggage, it still does 60, 65 at a push. As I say, this isn't a particularly fast, even for a 125, it's relatively slow just because it's quite a heavy bike anyway, and it's an air-cooled engine and everything else, but it's got a decent amount of low-down pulling power, so, you know, cruising speed has always been about 50, 55, and still remains so even with all this, which is obviously, you know, for my purposes great. And sort of on the theme of a mini adventure bike type thing, I have done other modifications to this to make it that bit more comfortable. For instance, I've got the USB in the back here of the top box to charge my phone and stuff. I have got a heated seat pad under here, which is controlled by the little switch at the front there, the sat nav obviously, full LED lighting all round, so it reduces the amount of draw on the battery and everything else. And on top of that, I do keep it maintained. I do stick it on a maintenance charger sort of every now and again, especially if I'm doing a lot of short journeys, just to keep the battery topped up and everything. So it really is a perfect little system. love it very much actually. Yeah, so there you go, guys. As I say, it's very, very simple. Just to summarise, you know, if you do want to put this kind of system on your bike, best bit of advice I can give is just keep it as simple as possible. I mean, if you can, and do what I've done, which is if you do have like a rack system already here, and you can just do a simple bar across with some padding, and then 2 connections down the side. I mean, as I say, now that I've got this on, if I really push on it, it moves, but moving when it's going along, it doesn't actually move at all. And as I said before, you can always strap it down. So there we go. It's a nice simple solution, but it really does give fantastic results. So there we go, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a like. Do subscribe to the channel. Go check out my other videos. And for now, I'll catch you guys again soon.